Hey everybody, welcome back to the Splatoon 2 commentary. In this part, we're going to start World 4 proper with bowling. Woo, bowling. Everybody's favorite slash not favorite sport in the history of...
Hey, bowling is great. I just don't go out of my way to go to a bowling alley.
Yeah, so it's not that great if you don't go out of your way to do it, John, huh?
Well, more like there's not a bowling lane near me.
You live in frickin' Philadelphia. I'm sure there's a bowling lane
Yeah,
somewhere.
I know. But the only two bowling lanes that come to mind is Erie Lanes, which, I mean, it's not that far away, to be fair. But the only other one I know is Lucky Strike, which is more of a pub slash bowling alley. That's it, though.
Well, I mean, what makes it any different other than you can get drunk while bowling? Which, honestly...
I wouldn't combine the two.
No, like one of the...
That's just a lot of Wii bowling incidents waiting to happen.
Yeah, the last thing I would give a drunk person is a 10-pound ball, which they're expected to throw. You know, like...
Really hard at something.
Yeah, that just sounds like a terrible idea, actually.
Damn it, Donnie, you're out of your element.
Is that a Great Lebowski quote?
A Big Lebowski,
Big
yes.
Lebowski, okay. Yeah, I have not seen that movie. I know all the quotes, though, because everybody... It's one of those movies where even though I haven't...
Won't shut up about it.
It's one of those movies where even though I haven't seen it, I know... Like, that's...
Pop cultural osmosis.
Yeah, that's actually something that happened to me in high school with Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I hate that movie, for the record, because when I was in high school, all my friends would do was just quote Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So by the time I actually saw it, I knew literally every single joke in the entire movie. There was not a single joke that my friends had not already quoted for me. And, like, I was just like, okay, I know that one. I know that one, too.
Damn. See, that's the thing. Is like that's not the movie's fault.
Yeah, I know, but I put my blame to places where it doesn't belong, and I don't feel bad about that.
We're well aware of that, Ted.
Ah,
Do you lose clothing when you take damage? Is it ghosts and goblins?
That's the armor, I think.
no.
Well, that's your hero suit. That's basically a way to say you're on your base clothes.
Yeah, so it's the health system in this game works a little bit differently than in Splatoon 1. In Splatoon, I think you take about the same amount of hits before you die, assuming you don't have armor, as you do in Splatoon 1. But in Splatoon 2, when you take a certain amount of damage, your hero suit will fall off, and it's basically like if you get tapped one more time, you're dead. But not only that,
It becomes Call of Duty at that point.
yeah, but you also move very, very slowly when you lose your hero suit. And I don't think it affects your firing rate or ink recovery at all. But just it's one of those things where, okay, you're on your last legs and you're making it harder for me to avoid attacks. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, personally, but whatever. I mean, I don't necessarily mind it, but the game is already in general harder than the original, and this doesn't exactly make it any better. Again, not that this is the hardest game I've ever played in my life, not even close, but the original Splatoon was a pretty comfortable ride, and this is a much it asks a lot more of you, so I don't really understand why they needed to like change that when it worked fine, I felt, in the first game, because everything else basically works exactly the same. You know, you can die 3 times at a certain checkpoint, and then you have to start the level over. If you've lost a life and you get to a checkpoint, you get a life back. It's all almost exactly the same as the original game. They just changed that one element to it, and I don't really get why. So, again, it's not a huge deal. It's just I don't really get it.
Honestly, it's not like there's that much combat outside of the boss fights anyway.
Not really, but the combat that is there, again, also feels a little bit more difficult, because, again, there's the thing with the shield enemies that they're... Ah, damn it! Well, that also happens. You take a lot more knockback in this game than in Splatoon 1, I also noticed. But, like, the enemies, I feel, take more punishment before they go down. I think they did want to up the combat element, because, again, the combat's the primary focus of the multiplayer, so I guess it does make sense to add it to the single player. It's just, the standard enemies I don't find are that interesting to fight. It's like, oh, this guy's floating, better shoot him, or whatever. It's the stuff like these, like the bowling balls or whatever, that are more interesting to deal with in a single player level, because they act in a way that's different than just kind of standing there, you know?
He also misses Sardinia.
Yeah, I know. I was actually kind of kicking myself, too, because it was actually very, very obvious.
Invisible platform at that bowling ball area, I think it is.
It's like a great platform, if I remember correctly.
Something like that.
It's
yeah.
at the very beginning of the stage, though, which is why I was really, really angry, because it's like, oh, now I have to play through the entire level. Like, this is right at the beginning. It's to the left up here. There's like a great platform, and this was just me not noticing it because I was looking at the footage just to make sure, and it was very clearly on screen. I was just not. I was too busy worrying about the sniper and whatnot.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Okay, the one I'm thinking of is probably in a different level then.
I was still upset about it though.
You okay?
Yeah.
Having a little seizure there? It's a sardine!
You see, I squid bag here to show my frustration, but I actually try to avoid. I don't squid bag at all online because it just makes me pissed off whenever I see someone do it, and I'm not going to do that to someone else because I find no personal enjoyment in squid bagging someone because it's just bad gameplay. You're sitting around wasting time squid bagging when you could be doing literally anything else. So
There's always time for at least 3.
No, you could. That half a second could be spent on almost anything else. Although the best thing to happen though is when you see somebody squid bagging and then you're able to kill them before they're done. That's always the best.
Yeah, my favorite squid bagging is always when someone does it and then they don't see the teammate behind them. Like dumbass.
Yeah, although I feel like it does get people killed a lot less than teabagging does in other shooters. Although I think that's more just because you don't leave behind a corpse in Splatoon, so people don't actually walk over to your corpse and teabag on it, which is rude, for the record. Please don't do that. So between recording sessions, the slosher not this slosher, but the Trislosher got nerfed, and it was like the end of Squid times as we knew it. Like everybody was so happy that this one thing got nerfed.
The Stingray also got a buff.
Yeah, the Stingray went from being one of the worst specials in the game to one of the best overnight. Literally overnight. It was weird, you know.
What was changed?
So the Stingray, I'm sure it's the one that shoots out that spray of ink that goes through the walls.
And it goes through walls.
What they changed is after you shoot it for about a second and a half, it'll start shooting out these shockwaves that drastically increase its radius, making it way easier to kill someone and making it just way easier to stay.
It also has higher knockback, which just makes it a lot easier to knock people off of things.
Yeah, and I believe it also got a very slight duration bonus. So it basically got, I think, the biggest buff I've ever seen anything get in Splatoon. Most of the other stuff that I've seen, or at least that I remember from the original Splatoon, it was mostly just like, okay, this got less damage, this fires less, this uses more or less ink. You know, that kind of stuff. Pretty standard sort of things. This is the only time in any game I can imagine where they changed how a move works. Like, I can't think of any fighting game or any other game, basically, where the balance was changed. So
you need to play more. You need to play more MMOs.
Oh, okay. All right, because I'm guessing that they change the way spells work all the time.
What you're gonna say? It's like if you play Final Fantasy 14, that is pretty much par for the course with every major patch.
Oh, what? They'll just drastically change how a given spell works?
They'll either in terms of a drastic change, there's been one for the latest expansion, Stormblood, but between patches, they'll nerf, they'll buff.
Oh no, I'm not
they'll
saying.
Change the direction.
Oh no,
like
I'm not. No, I'm sorry. I'm not saying like those sorts of things are common. Is what I'm saying. Like patch notes are often like, okay, the frames on this move go down or go up, or the Olimar's final smash does more damage, or stuff like that's common. I'm saying I've never seen a patch where they drastically change the way the move works. Like the Stingray thing is completely new to me. But you're saying that like drastic changes to spells and abilities happens in MMOs a lot then?
Yes.
Okay. Like, can you give an example?
If enough people complain about it, it will happen.
Okay. All right. One tiny detail is that whenever something with the face stamps on the ground, it leaves an imprint of the face in the ink, which I just think is really, really cool, personally. But that's just me.
I want to like the bucket.
Well, if you wanted to like the bucket, you should have played it before the 1.3.0 patch, because the Tri-slosher was unquestionably like the best weapon in the game. I should specify, for the type of like gameplay that you're going for. Like, it was just unquestionably better than several other guns. Like, the way that it worked is that it was a 2-shot kill under almost every situation. Where I believe, like, because its base damage was, I think, like 60 something, and you have 100 health. So as long as you like were able to kind of sort of aim slightly to the enemy, then you would be able to basically kill it in 2 shots, like no matter what, and its range was ridiculous. They changed that in the patch. I think it's like 52 damage now, and so due to the way that sloshers work on higher ground and just, you know, the way that gameplay generally tends to fly in Splatoon, it's much less broken now. I don't think I've seen a single Tri-slosher in ranked since the patch came out. I don't think that it's that. Oh, this is my favorite one in the game. The Squid Bible is confirmed to be a real thing, and the implications of that are bizarre. But anyway, yeah, I haven't seen a Tri-slosher in ranked since the patch came out. I don't think the weapon got that bad. I think it's just become balanced now, and the people who played Bucket were like, oh, no, my Bucket isn't as good. I'm going to play something else. You know, and there's the stigma against Buckets anyway, so people don't want to go back to them.
Well, if you're using a bucket, what do you prioritize? Do you try and get up close?
You try to kill. You can kill very easily with the bucket. Is the thing, because you don't have to aim. You can just kind of shoot it. You can just kind of aim somewhere close to where the enemy is, and then you'll kill them almost all of the time. Is the thing. It's also it's a good all around weapon. I think is the best thing to put.
It's a good all around weapon, and I think kind of think of it as a roller with the intent to kill rather than cover.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It can cover, not as fast as a roller, but it can cover. It can kill much more easily because there's no huge wind up on the flicks, you know. So yeah. It is.
Whereas rollers can kill, but they're more designed for coverage.
Yeah, so it can cover roughly equally to It can cover roughly equally to a roller and kill roughly equally to a standard splatter shot. So think of it as where it's one of those things where, you know, the saying, jack of all trades, master of none. The Trislosher was the master of all trades, jack of none. And so it was just really...
Wait, who are we jacking?
Your mom? No, I'm sorry, not your mom. Your mom's a nice lady.
Okay. I should have never asked this question.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, it was just a really, really good weapon, and it was really fun to play too. Like, that's one of the. I think I've mentioned this before. I don't know if in this playthrough or whatever, but I generally prefer when games buff weapons as opposed to buff weapons to try to bring everything else to the level that the previously overpowered weapon was. I generally prefer that as opposed to when they nerf something. Because one of the best examples I can think of that is Super Smash Bros. 4. I loved playing Olimar in Brawl, and he got nerfed pretty substantially in Smash 4, to the point where I felt that he was no longer as fun to play. And that's kind of a shame. I think that might have been what happened with the Slosher nerf, where people just don't think it's as fun to play.
Unfortunately, if you try to do that, you wind up becoming a power contest.
Oh yeah, power creep, then power.
Then potentially using what made the weapon or the character interesting in the first place.
Yeah, that's also true. So that's by no means a perfect solution, and sometimes nerfs are just necessary because, you know, if one thing is just too good, then it just makes playing anything else not worth your time anymore, you know, like
the Meta Knight and Brawl problem.
Yeah, where
specifically too good that requires little effort.
The Meta Knight and Brawl problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Meta Knight and Brawl, I'm not super familiar with the Brawl like competitive metagame, but it was with Meta Knight, it was the point where Meta Knight was just so good and not interesting enough that they had to ban him in order for like reasonable and interesting competition to happen. Was what that was all about? Because I know he was.
Yeah, because
more
I don't
or
even
less,
think-
he was
'cause
he was a little too easy to use for how good he was.
Because I think to my knowledge, Meta Knight was the only character that was just outright banned. Because we talk about like how in Melee tournaments, it's Fox, Falco, Marth, and
Sheik.
Sheik for days, but they never actually got banned to my knowledge.
No,
No,
because
and
you have to
every
do
ca-
ridiculous
and
frame
just
perfect shit.
Yeah, and mostly unless you were maybe Pichu or Roy, who is just at that point kind of just a worse Marth, every character was more or less still viable. It was just how good you were with them.
Yeah, because like there was a big deal about like a Yoshi person and a Pikachu person doing well at a tournament at some point. I remember. Honestly, I
Yeah.
just don't really like playing Melee all that much. I never really was a huge Melee person.
The point was you can't really either make it a power creep and you can't make it too easy to be good with the overpowered character if such a one exists. Like in Smash 4, Bayonetta is a damn good character and we've seen her used in tournaments a lot, but she is really hard to do and you have to react really fast on your feet when things go wrong with her.
Yeah, and I think it is important to mention that I think it's probably with fighting games or shooters, I think getting a perfectly balanced game is probably impossible. Like
Oh no, it is impossible. Like even the closest one we've gotten, like the original Blaze Blue in fighting games, is still unbalanced.
yeah, some characters are just going to be better than others.
The point that we just appreciate the attempt, which is I think why everyone is okay with some of the more imbalances in Smash 4 compared to Brawl, because let's be honest, in Brawl there was like no attempt to actually fix anything.
No, because at that point they were still. I think that they did try to make it more of a party game than a fighting game, development mentality wise with Brawl. Whereas in not that Smash 4 isn't a party game, but there was more of an effort to make it a fighting game in that.
Well,
mindset.
at the same time, the Wii U was also in a generation where patch fixes were more common because the Wii
I don't think any Wii game ever got
was
patched.
never. Yeah, the only one I ever got patched to my knowledge was Skyward Sword, but not in a way that.
Skyward Sword got patched.
Yes,
Because of game-breaking bugs.
It had a game-breaking bug concerning a dungeon.
Was it the same kind of thing with Other M where you literally had to mail your disc in to Nintendo?
Yes.
Oh.
It was very much like that.
Oh, Twilight Princess had
Yeah.
one. Twilight Princess had one too.
Yeah, but
All
that,
the
crash.
Elden Bridge glitch.
yeah, but did
Yeah.
that get fixed in later releases, or did you?
Yes, it did.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is why if you want to speedrun that game, you have to get the early versions.
Yes.